There's a dirty secret behind Ozempic's weight loss that almost nobody is talking about. And it's not that Ozempic doesn't work. It does work. For many people, it works dramatically. Appetite goes down, cravings get quieter, food noise fades, the number on the scale starts moving in a direction that feels almost unbelievable after years of trying everything. Low carb, keto, fasting, calorie counting, protein shakes, gym memberships, supplements, and sheer willpower. And for someone living with type 2 diabetes, prediabetes, or insulin resistance in general, I completely understand why that feels like relief. But here's the part most people miss. Ozempic can help you lose weight without fixing the metabolic problem that made weight so easy to gain in the first place. Weight loss and reversal of insulin resistance are related, but they are not the same thing. You can lose weight while still being insulin resistant. You can have a smaller body with the same impaired carbohydrate tolerance. You can eat less food, see better blood sugar numbers, and still not restore the ability of your muscle and liver to handle glucose normally. That is the dirty secret. Ozempic can turn down the volume on appetite, but it does not automatically repair the cellular communication breakdown that created type 2 diabetes in the first place. So today, I want to explain exactly what Ozempic is doing, what it's not doing, why the weight comes off, why it comes back when people stop, and what the root cause approach looks like alongside or instead of this medication. Because this conversation does not need more fear. It needs people to understand the underlying physiology. Before I get started, if you want our free guide on how to address insulin resistance at the root with food, movement, and lifestyle, comment guide below. It's completely free. Just comment guide below. Now, let's get into the physiology. Ozempic is the brand name for a semaglutide, a GLP-1 receptor agonist. GLP-1 is a hormone your body naturally produces after eating. It helps regulate blood sugar by stimulating insulin secretion when glucose is elevated, reducing glucagon secretion, and slowing gastric emptying, which means food leaves the stomach more slowly. The official prescribing information describes semaglutide as lowering blood glucose by stimulating insulin secretion and lowering glucagon secretion in a glucose-dependent manner, while also delaying gastric emptying. Here is what that means in plain English. Ozempic is not melting fat. It's not dissolving belly fat like a metabolic drain cleaner. It's not scraping lipid droplets out of your liver. It's changing signals. It changes appetite signals in the brain. It slows digestion in the gut. It adjusts hormone output from the pancreas. It reduces glucagon, which lowers the liver's tendency to dump glucose into the bloodstream when it should not. And because you feel fuller sooner and stay fuller longer, you eat less. That reduction in food intake is the primary reason weight comes off. And again, that can be genuinely useful. But now we have to ask the deeper question. If Ozempic helps you eat less and lose weight, does that mean it reversed the root cause of insulin resistance? Not necessarily. At the core of type 2 diabetes is one problem: insulin resistance. And insulin resistance is driven largely by excess fat accumulation inside muscle and liver cells. Researchers call this intramyocellular lipid in muscle and hepatic lipid in the liver. When that fat builds up inside the cell, it interferes with insulin signaling. The communication system breaks down. Here's the analogy I want you to hold on to. Think of your muscle cells like a group chat. Glucose is trying to send a message. I'm here. Let me in. Insulin is the notification alert. In a metabolically healthy body, the alert comes through clearly. The cell sees the message, opens the door, and glucose moves out of the bloodstream and into the muscle where it gets stored or burned for energy. But in insulin resistance, that group chat has been muted. The messages are still being sent. Insulin is still showing up and knocking on the door, but inside the muscle cell, excess fat has silenced the conversation. The notification does not pop up properly. The cell does not respond. Glucose stays in the bloodstream. Blood sugar rises. Carbohydrates did not cause that. They revealed it. When someone eats oatmeal, fruit, potatoes, beans, or brown rice, and their blood sugar rises, the common conclusion is that food caused the problem, but that is not what's happening. That food showed where the problem already was. Now here is where Ozempic can create a dangerous illusion. If Ozempic makes you eat less, slows digestion, reduces appetite, and lowers blood sugar, it can look like the carbohydrate problem is solved. But what has often happened is simply this: less glucose is entering the bloodstream at one time, and less food is being consumed overall. That can lower blood sugar numbers, but lower numbers are not the same as restored carbohydrate tolerance. Now, let's talk about the clinical data, because this is where the story gets more complicated. In the step 1 trial, adults with overweight or obesity who did not have diabetes were assigned to semaglutide 2.4 milligrams weekly or placebo alongside lifestyle intervention. At 68 weeks, the semaglutide group lost substantially more body weight than placebo. The weight loss was real and significant. But look closer at the body composition data. A body composition substudy from step 1 reported that semaglutide reduced total fat mass and regional visceral fat mass, while lean body mass also changed with weight loss. More specifically, a body composition analysis from the same trial reported that total fat mass decreased by 19.3%, visceral fat decreased by 27.4%, and total lean body mass decreased by 9.7% with semaglutide. The scale dropped, but so did muscle. When the scale goes down, the scale cannot tell you what was lost. Was it fat? Was it muscle? Was it water? Was it a mix? With GLP-1 medications, much of the weight loss is fat, which matters, but a meaningful portion can also be lean mass. And muscle matters more than most people realize. Muscle is not just something you build at a gym. Muscle is one of the most important metabolic organs in your body. It is your primary glucose sink. It's where a large portion of post-meal glucose is supposed to go. When you contract muscle, you activate pathways that allow glucose to enter muscle cells even without full insulin cooperation. That is why a walk after a meal can lower post-meal blood glucose without medication. So if someone loses a large amount of weight, but also loses muscle and does not rebuild insulin sensitivity through food and movement, they may end up with a smaller body that is still metabolically fragile. The goal cannot simply be to make the scale smaller. The goal is to make the cells more responsive. So why does the weight come back when you stop GLP-1s? This part matters, and it's worth being honest about. In a step 1 extension study, participants who had received semaglutide and then stopped treatment regained a significant portion of the weight they had lost. From the start of the study through week 68, participants lost an average of 17.3% of body weight. After stopping the medication, they had regained 11.6 percentage points of that by week 120. Roughly 2/3 of the prior weight loss came back. This does not mean people failed. It means the medication was suppressing biological systems that came roaring back when the signal was removed. Appetite returned, hunger returned, food noise returned. The body defended its prior weight. And if the underlying diet and lifestyle pattern had not changed in a way that improved insulin sensitivity, the original metabolic environment was still waiting. That's why many clinicians describe obesity and type 2 diabetes as conditions that require ongoing pharmaceutical drug support. And from a medication-centered framework, that logic makes sense. But from a root cause perspective, we have to ask a different question. What if the goal is not to suppress appetite indefinitely? What if the goal is to change the internal environment so the body becomes more insulin sensitive, muscle becomes better glucose sinks, the liver stops overproducing glucose, and whole carbohydrate foods become genuinely easier to tolerate again? That is the question worth asking. If you want our free guide on how to build that kind of metabolic environment step by step, comment guide below. It's 100% free. Some people will say Ozempic works because people eat fewer calories. Is that not what weight loss always comes down to? Well, calories matter. Of course they do. But in the context of insulin resistance reversal, calories are not the whole story. Two diets can contain identical calories and have very different effects on insulin sensitivity, liver fat, muscle lipid, gut microbiome, satiety, inflammation, and long-term sustainability. A lower calorie diet built around cheese, eggs, meat, butter, and oil is not the same as a low calorie diet built around beans, berries, greens, oats, lentils, potatoes, and vegetables. One keeps saturated fat high and fiber low. The other lowers saturated fat, increases fiber, feeds beneficial gut bacteria, improves short-chain fatty acid production, and supports better insulin sensitivity over time. So yes, Ozempic can reduce calorie intake, but the more important question is, what metabolic messages are the remaining calories sending? Are they helping unmute the insulin signal, or are they keeping the group chat silenced? A smaller amount of a high-fat diet is still a high-fat diet. And if your muscles and liver are still being exposed to the same pattern that promotes lipid accumulation inside insulin-sensitive tissues, your glucose tolerance may not fully recover even as the scale goes down. And importantly, research shows that improvements in insulin resistance with semaglutide are largely mediated by the weight loss itself, not by a direct cellular repair of insulin signaling pathways. That matters because it confirms the point. The medication produces weight loss. The weight loss produces some insulin sensitivity improvement. But if the dietary pattern during and after the medication does not change the intracellular environment, the system remains fragile. That is the paradox. If you're taking a GLP-1, the question you should ask yourself is how to use this window wisely. Whether you are taking a GLP-1 medication or not, the root cause work is the same. And if you are taking one, the reduced appetite is actually an opportunity. Use it to build the dietary pattern that changes the cellular environment. That means centering meals around fruits, legumes, intact whole grains, starchy vegetables, and non-starchy vegetables. Low saturated fat, high fiber, high water content, high nutrient density. Not because carbohydrates are harmless in every context right now, but because those are the foods that gradually reduce the intracellular fat burden, restore insulin signaling, and allow carbohydrate tolerance to come back over time. This is also why movement matters so much alongside any medication strategy. Protect your muscle. Walk after meals. A 10 to 20 minute walk after eating gives glucose a physical exit ramp. Muscle contraction opens a insulin independent pathway for glucose uptake. Your muscles become glucose vacuums, not because you are burning off carbs in a frantic way, but because contraction itself opens another door into the cell. Add simple resistance training when possible, not to become a bodybuilder, but to preserve and build the tissue that is your most important glucose disposal organ. If muscle is your glucose sink, you do not want to shrink the sink while the drain is still clogged. You want to clear the drain and build a bigger sink. Track the markers that actually tell you whether the root cause is changing, not just the scale. Look at fasting glucose trending down over weeks. Look at post-meal recovery getting faster. Look at A1C. Look at triglycerides. Look at whether you can eat a piece of fruit or a bowl of beans and return to baseline more efficiently than before. Those numbers reveal whether the cellular conversation is being unmuted. The scale alone does not. Let's zoom out because the most powerful message here is bigger than any single medication. Ozempic changes signals. It lowers appetite, slows digestion, reduces glucagon, and helps the liver release less glucose into the bloodstream. Those are real effects. For many people, they produce real improvement. But semaglutide does not reduce intramyocellular fat. It does not clear hepatic lipid. It does not rebuild GLUT4 expression in muscle. It does not restore the insulin signaling pathways that were disrupted by years of excess dietary fat. It does not train the muscle to act as a glucose sink. That work still has to happen. And it happens through food, movement, sleep, stress reduction, and consistency. Low-fat, plant-based whole food nutrition reduces the lipid burden that jams insulin signaling at the cellular level. Post-meal walking activates contraction-mediated glucose uptake and gives glucose somewhere to go even when insulin is still struggling. Resistance training preserves and builds that metabolic real estate that determines long-term glucose tolerance, and high-fiber, low-saturated fat eating feeds the gut microbiome in a way that produces compounds that improve insulin sensitivity from the inside out. None of this is about fear of food. None of this is about restriction forever. It's about unmuting the conversation. Glucose is still sending the message. Insulin is still trying to deliver the notification, and your muscle cells need to learn how to pick up again. That is the real work. That is the real opportunity. And that is where metabolic freedom actually begins. Not a smaller number on a scale, not a quieter appetite. Body that can handle whole carbohydrate-rich foods without fear because the cells have learned to respond again. If Ozempic helped lower your numbers, that is not nothing. But ask yourself the deeper questions. Can you eat fruit without panic? Can you eat beans without a major spike? Is your fasting glucose trending down because your liver is becoming more insulin sensitive? Are you building habits that would still support you if the medication were adjusted under medical supervision? Those questions reveal whether the system is actually changing. And if the answer is not yet, that's okay. This video is a wake-up call, and it's time to take action on root cause reversal. If you want our free step-by-step guide to reversing insulin resistance at the root, comment guide below. If this video helped you, hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and share it with someone who's been told that smaller appetite is the same thing as a healthier metabolism. Until next time, keep those carbs high and that A1C low.